Since the earliest days of human civilization, societies have established a framework of laws and customs that govern their social structures, religious beliefs, and cultural identities. These guiding principles have shaped communities for millennia, dictating behaviors and traditions that define various aspects of life. Among the numerous regulations that have stood the test of time, few are as enigmatic and enduring as the prohibition of pork consumption. This age-old practice, which holds profound significance in both Jewish and Islamic faiths, remains steadfastly upheld to this day, regarded as an unalterable commandment of divine origin. Conversely, Christianity, despite inheriting numerous customs and beliefs from Judaism, eventually chose to diverge from this long-standing dietary restriction. This divergence prompts a compelling inquiry. Why did Christianity set aside this prohibition while other major religions continued to adhere to it? What underlying spiritual, cultural, and practical influences have sustained this dietary restriction throughout the centuries in certain religious traditions? In this discussion, we will delve into the sacred scriptures, historical contexts, and religious customs that have contributed to the persistence and evolution of these dietary laws. Our exploration aims to shed light on a lesser-known aspect of this complex subject. Before we embark on this thought-provoking journey through time and theology, we encourage you to support this content by liking and subscribing to the channel. This will ensure that you stay informed and do not miss any future discussions. Join us as we traverse the annals of history and religious doctrine to uncover the deeper significance of this enduring tradition. The Old Testament and the prohibition of pork. Let's begin with the Old Testament, the foundation of the Jewish faith and equally revered by Islam. In the book of Leviticus 11:7-8, we find one of the clearest and most emphatic laws. And the pig, because it has cloven hooves but does not chew cud, is unclean to you. Of its flesh you shall not eat, and its carcass you shall not touch, they are unclean to you. This statement is direct, but it also raises a fundamental question. Why did God consider the pig an unclean animal? The reasons go beyond the spiritual realm, encompassing practical aspects related to health and survival. In ancient times, the pig was viewed as unclean not only because of its behavior, but also because of its eating habits, which included scraps and carcasses, associating it with filth and the risk of contamination. Moreover, in extreme climates such as those in the Middle East, pork posed serious health risks, being a vehicle for diseases such as trichinosis, a potentially fatal parasitic infection. For a nomadic people like Israel, who lived in arid desert conditions, this prohibition served as a practical life preservation measure. However, reducing this restriction to a mere sanitary issue would oversimplify its true meaning, which involves deeper spiritual and cultural dimensions. In biblical tradition, the concepts of purity and impurity go beyond the physical or material aspect. They are deeply connected to the spiritual dimension. The people of Israel were called to live in holiness, a state of separation and total dedication to God. This sacred vocation demanded a way of life that was firmly rooted in unwavering adherence to divine commandments and a deliberate rejection of the customs and traditions of surrounding nations, whose practices frequently stood in opposition to the foundational tenets of the covenant established with the Creator. One of the most striking demonstrations of this devotion is found in the dietary regulations, particularly the prohibition against consuming pork. This dietary restriction was not merely a rule, but a profound symbol of the distinctive and consecrated bond between the people of Israel and their God. Beyond serving as a practical safeguard for the physical well-being of the community, these dietary laws functioned as a perpetual reaffirmation of Israel's spiritual identity and unwavering dedication to the Lord. Every decision regarding food carried a deeper significance, continually reinforcing the consciousness of being part of a sanctified people, one set apart for a divine and elevated purpose. The text in Deuteronomy 14:21 illustrates this relationship. You shall not eat anything that dies of itself. You shall give it to the foreigner who is within your gates, that he may eat it, or you may sell it to a foreigner, for you are a holy people to the Lord your God. These statements underscore the fact that these laws were not intended to be universal but were uniquely designated for the people of Israel. They served as a defining characteristic of their identity as a chosen nation, set apart from others. Rather than being a simple dietary regulation, these laws embodied a concrete manifestation of faith and unwavering adherence to divine commandments. They functioned as visible markers of the sacred covenant between God and His people. By upholding these regulations, Israel not only demonstrated its reverence for divine holiness, but also signified to surrounding nations the singular and profound nature of its relationship with the Creator. Throughout the centuries, the prohibition against consuming pork became deeply ingrained in Jewish religious and cultural life, playing a crucial role in preserving the unique identity of the Israelite people. This distinction set them apart from the surrounding Gentile communities, reinforcing their spiritual and communal unity. Although these dietary laws may appear straightforward on the surface, they possess immense theological and cultural weight, symbolizing the divine intention for His people to uphold purity in both their physical lives and their spiritual practices. Islam and the prohibition of pork. When examining other religious traditions, it becomes evident that Islam, which arose many centuries after Judaism, adopted and maintained the prohibition against pork consumption with absolute strictness. The Quran, the central religious text of Islam, explicitly declares this restriction in unequivocal terms. Allah has forbidden you the consumption of dead meat, blood, the flesh of pigs, and anything sacrificed in the name of anyone other than Allah. Quran 2:173. Within Islamic doctrine, the pig is classified as haram, a term in Arabic that denotes something forbidden or impure. It is viewed as an unclean creature, and eating its flesh is regarded as a direct violation of divine law. For Muslims, adherence to this dietary restriction is not merely a cultural or inherited tradition, it is an outward demonstration of their faith and an act of absolute submission to the will of Allah. From a practical standpoint, similar justifications to those found in Judaism can be identified. In the regions where Islam emerged, which were characterized by arid climates and a lack of proper sanitary conditions, consuming pork posed substantial health risks. In such an environment, abstaining from pork acted as a preventative measure, safeguarding the health and well-being of the entire community. Nevertheless, in Islam, this prohibition is not solely a matter of hygiene or practicality, it holds profound spiritual significance. Refraining from eating pork is regarded as an expression of purity, self-discipline, and an unwavering commitment to upholding divine commandments. This dietary restriction is non-negotiable within Islamic teachings, and strict observance of it serves to reinforce the collective spiritual identity of the Muslim community, binding its members through a shared practice of devotion and obedience. Christianity and the lifting of the prohibition. As we delve deeper into this examination, we begin to notice a significant shift between the dietary restrictions upheld in Jewish and Islamic traditions and the contrasting approach of Christianity, which embraced a newfound freedom regarding the consumption of various foods, including pork. This exploration takes us through a historical, theological, and cultural journey, uncovering the key factors that have shaped the dietary practices and spiritual understandings of religious communities over the centuries. While both Judaism and Islam strictly prohibit the consumption of pork, a fascinating question emerges. Why did Christians who trace their spiritual lineage back to Judaism ultimately decide to abandon this long-standing restriction? The answer to this question leads us to a pivotal moment in the evolution of religious thought, one that marked a profound transformation in the interpretation of Old Testament laws. This shift was brought about by the arrival of Jesus Christ and the teachings of the New Testament, which redefined the way divine commandments were understood and practiced. With the advent of Jesus' ministry, numerous ceremonial and ritualistic laws from the Torah were reconsidered in light of his spiritual message. He emphasized a deeper, more personal connection to God, one that prioritized inner purity over external adherence to regulations. This change is exemplified in Mark 7:18-19, where Jesus proclaims, "Are you so dull? Don't you see that nothing that enters a man from the outside can make him unclean? Thus declaring all foods clean." This statement signifies a fundamental transformation. Jesus shifts the focus away from traditional concepts of ritual purity and directs attention toward the state of the human heart. He teaches that true impurity is not a result of what a person consumes, but rather what originates from within, such as malicious thoughts, immoral desires, jealousy, and greed. This groundbreaking teaching fundamentally challenged long-held religious customs and introduced a radical reinterpretation of the believer's relationship with God. It reoriented spiritual practice from an emphasis on external rituals to an internalized, faith-driven connection with the divine. This doctrinal evolution ultimately shaped the way Christianity approached dietary laws, distinguishing it from the religious traditions that preceded it. In Judaism, dietary laws serve as a profound expression of obedience, sanctity, and unwavering dedication to the covenant established with God. These regulations are not merely about food consumption. They symbolize a deep spiritual commitment and the pursuit of holiness. In Islam, maintaining dietary purity signifies complete submission to the divine will of Allah. The act of consuming only what is permitted and abstaining from what is forbidden is an integral demonstration of faith, reflecting a sense of devotion, discipline, and adherence to religious principles. In Christianity, however, the concept of dietary freedom embodies the idea of divine grace, emphasizing liberation from ritualistic ordinances and shifting the focus from ceremonial observances to an inward, spiritual connection with God. This comparative study reveals that what may initially seem like simple dietary choices actually hold profound significance within religious traditions. Such practices are far more than matters of sustenance. They embody deeply held values, reinforce group identities, and serve as tangible expressions of faith. Whether through strict prohibitions or through the embrace of dietary freedom, religious communities use food as a means of conveying sacred teachings and reinforcing their spiritual principles. In today's interconnected world, where diverse cultures and belief systems interact more closely than ever before, recognizing and appreciating these differences is essential for fostering mutual understanding, respect, and interfaith dialogue. Food is not solely a matter of physical nourishment. It also carries symbolic and cultural weight, acting as an outward reflection of religious identity and personal beliefs. If you've made it this far, we sincerely appreciate your time and interest in exploring this profound and thought-provoking subject. If you found this content insightful, we encourage you to like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on future discussions. May God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.